key points of typing here. For details, visit our channel, Typing for All. Tip number 1. Prepare proper workspace. Tip number 2. Set sitting position. Tip number 3. Set position of hands. Tip number 4. Correct use of fingers. Tip number 5. Start with blind bumper keys. Tip number 6. Always keep fingers on home row. Tip number 7. Type with hearable voice. Tip number 8. Use opposite hand fingers for capital letters. Tip number 9. Correct use of pinky finger. Tip number 10. Focus on accuracy instead of speed. Tip number 11. Don't talk to others. Tip number 12. Don't look at the keyboard. Tip number 13. Don't be hard at pressing the keys. Tip number 14. Don't feel pressure, just be calm. Tip number 15. Avoid pressing backspace key. Tip number 16. Try to set record to type A to Z alphabets. Tip number 17. Practice sentences that contains all alphabets A to Z. Tip number 18. Play typing games. Tip number 19. Familiarize yourself with whole keyboard. Tip number 20. Prefer Notepad or MS Word instead of typing tutors for long practice. Tip number 21. Prefer numeric keypad for digits, especially for long numbers. Tip number 22. Prefer desktop computer instead of laptop. Tip number 23. Use normal keyboard instead of laptop keyboard. Tip number 24. Set proper time session according to your status. Tip number 25. Practice most common, relevant and motivational text. Tip number 26. Be aware of formulations about calculating speed and accuracy. Tip number 27. Practice with different types of keyboards. Tip number 28. Type with the speed of listening voice. Tip number 29. Type after tired for becoming accurate and fast typist. Tip number 30. Improve vocabulary. Tip number 31. Improve word spells. Tip number 32. Improve typing rhythm. Tip number 33. Achieve top ranking position in newly typing websites. Tip number 34. Achieve top ranking position in newly typing Android apps. Tip number 35. Achieve different typing certificates. Tip number 36. Improve your mind for typing by the typing. If you performed these 36 typing tips, then you are ready for any type of typing competition or test.